All right, let's get started with the first conversation today, and that relates to the difference between direct mutual fund schemes and regular mutual fund schemes. To the uninitiated, there isn't much of a difference between the two, at least optically. But we'll delve a little deeper into what is actually a very simple difference and what could have a pretty substantial bearing on your returns, especially over the long term. We're joined by Tarun Birani, who is the founder and chief executive officer at TBNG Capital Advisors. Thank you so much, Tarun, for taking the time. I want to start not with direct and regular. I want to start with the total expense ratio, because I think a lot of people don't understand how this works. So let's start with that. What is the total expense ratio when we're talking about mutual fund schemes, and how is it calculated? Over what period is it charged?
Sure. So good evening, Alex, and thank you for having me here. So total expense ratio is nothing but the expense ratio to manage a fund, manage a portfolio, right? So we have various options, right? You can buy stocks yourself, but you go to a mutual fund because it gives you a professional management. It gives you diversification. There are a lot of benefits of mutual funds. So with that comes the cost, right? There are various costs like trading cost, legal fees, auditor fees. There are fund management costs because there are professional fund managers who are running that portfolios, right? So they make all their money through that. So that fund management fees is also part of that fees. Apart from that, there are costs in sales and distribution. And when it comes to distribution, there are a lot of existing employees as well as channel partners, brokers, etc. work for them, due to which the distribution costs are there. So these are 5-6 different parts of a total expense ratio. And again, these total expense ratio is calculated on a daily basis. So whatever NAV you see on a daily basis, so that is deducted from the same. Thank you.
Understood. So it's not on a monthly basis. It's not on a quarterly basis. It's not on an annual basis. On a daily basis, it gets settled as the dust settles for the trading day. So too does your NAV, and that reflects the cost that you are incurring in terms of what Tarun just explained. But let's get into the most important issue that we're discussing today: the difference between direct mutual fund schemes and regular mutual fund schemes. This is something that the SEBI mandated. Why is it so important to understand, Tarun?
So, Alex, there are if I may tell you from a mutual fund perspective or from a fund manager perspective, a direct plan or a regular plan is exactly the same, right? The stocks which are purchased in the portfolio is exactly the same in a direct versus a regular plan. Operationally also, it is completely a similar thing. The only difference between that is what I clearly remember some years ago, SEBI brought out this concept of direct investing, direct mutual fund, for the simple reason that there is rampant mis-selling also which is happening. So to ensure that direct plan gives transparency, from transparency what I mean is that there are no channel partner or distribution expenses which are incurred in direct plan. So the benefit of that distribution savings is passed on to the investors. So the intermediary cost is reduced, and which gets benefited in terms of the NAV. So NAV of a direct plan is higher than a regular plan. That is the main difference.
Understood. How does this play out over a longer period? And one would assume that the larger your corpus gets, the bigger an impact you're going to see there, right? And I'm trying to understand how my viewers can benefit from this, because I think the convenience factor comes into play, where they have for a long time transacted in a certain way, Tarun, and so therefore they continue to do so. But I'm just trying to understand what the implications are to that corpus over the longer period?
Yeah. So again, Alex, it's a very tricky one. Why I call it a tricky one is because for an investor who doesn't know how to do asset allocation, how to do fund planning, how to do fund selection, he or she definitely needs assistance or help in the same, right? So definitely there are costs involved in anybody who will be guiding or helping that investor. So when it comes to direct mutual fund, I feel what is more important for one to be aware that yes, there is a definitely a cost difference, and that cost difference is because there is some bit of disintermediation, or the cost of distribution is reduced in that. Due to that, that saving is passed on. If I look at normal equity, so there are various categories of mutual fund, and expense ratios varies between all these categories. If I come to equity fund, the ballpark running expense ratio difference between a direct and regular plan works out to be anywhere between 0.85% to 1.1 kind of percent. But over a long period of time, let's say 5 to 10 years, the compounding benefit on that expense ratio difference of say 1% creeps in, and that becomes larger over a long period of time. So we are seeing over a 4, 5, 7 years holding period, that compounding benefit becomes much more substantial. So that is one thing to understand for investor, but one should not confuse that normally investor doesn't have the know-how to pick up a investment. So there also you need some assistance, and maybe the cost what you are paying, that 1.5% is nothing but getting a help from someone, expert who is helping you to buy that investment. So one need to be aware of that, why is that difference coming.
Okay, but what in a situation where I've also seen situations where, for example, you are using an online broker for stock purchases, for example, Tarun, and you are also fairly familiar based on, watching individuals like yourself, experts like yourself, giving advice on the Money Show, for example, that these are the kind of mutual fund schemes that you can possibly go for. And you understand the subject enough to say that you will choose A, B, and C mutual fund scheme. And because you have an account with that broker, that online broker, you place your request or you place your transaction through that broker because you want something in a consolidated fashion. In that scenario, and I'm giving you a scenario here just so that my viewers can benefit, in that scenario, would it make sense to go the direct route, especially if you have a lesser number of mutual fund schemes?
So again, it's a very, very delicate question if you ask me, Alex. The reason for that is there are actually three ways. If I make it very simple, three ways of investing into a mutual fund. Either if you are extremely knowledgeable, you know everything, you will invest yourself in the market. Definitely, you don't need anyone. Go pick up the mutual fund directly from a mutual fund, or go to any direct platform and pick up and save that money. Another route is go to a distributor, and that distributor will help you, guide you, make a asset allocation plan for you, and accordingly make you invest for that. And due to that, the cost, he makes that money through commission. Another third route, and which has again come into picture since last 6-7 years, which is a registered investment advisor, RIA. So again, RIA looks at from a more holistic way of giving a recommendation to the client by looking at asset allocation, from the client's financial goals. All those are looked into while looking at investment. Let me give you one example, Alex, and it's a very interesting study which has been done by Vanguard in US. And that study says that investor investing themselves versus investing with the help of a trusted financial advisor, that is of 3 to 4. Basically, if I have to talk, first part is the behavior coaching part, and behavior coaching is nothing but helping the client stay focused on the financial goals, not get swayed by herd mentality. As we see today, there are so many IPOs coming in, so many market frenzy, small cap stocks moving up. The investors are confused. And at that point of time, you need somebody as a sane voice which can tell you a plan and make you go towards that. So that is what behavior coaching is. And almost 50% of the extra returns are generated because of that. Second is an asset allocation based strategy. So everybody has a risk tolerance level. So based on risk tolerance and suitability, exact asset allocation is created, and based on that, portfolio is created. And the third basis, as soon as you reach that asset allocation triggers, you need to rebalance that portfolio. So according to me, Alex, it's a very delicate balance. It's an art and science both. You need somebody to handhold you. It looks very simple that you can go and pick up that stock, but it doesn't look, it is not like that when I work with investors myself, because I know it's a very emotional business, right? When you invest your own money, you get very emotional and swayed away by a lot of factors. So that's where either a distributor or a registered investment advisors come into play and help you achieve your financial goal. So as an investor, one need to be aware that what do you want to achieve. If you think you are aware of everything, go and pick up the funds yourself. But if you think you need assistance, you can choose two paths. Either you go to a distributor who will get commissions directly from a mutual fund. But the problem there is from a transparency and independence point of view, do you feel empowered that any advice which is given to you by that distributor, is that qualified enough, because he get paid by the manufacturer themselves? So I think all these issues need to be understood in detail. Why?
Right, Tarun. I completely understand. I get that point. In fact, you've elucidated it very well. And just to draw attention of the viewers to the point that you were making, it is, in fact, a little costlier to have that regular plan as opposed to the direct plan. There are, of course, advantages associated with the advice that you get. But that was essentially the point that we were trying to make. Thank you so much, Tarun, for taking the time and for speaking to ET. Now, completely out of time on this particular leg of the show. We have to slip into a short break. Do stay tuned. More on the other side.